All right, guys. So, welcome to week two. We're going to start going over your live questions right now for week two. But before we start, what we wanted to cover this week is go over some of the common concerns going into week two of the challenge. Typically, what I'm going to do is, again, how it works is just write your questions in the chat. We will answer them in order. I'll ask them to Matt. Matt will answer them for you, unless it's specifically addressed to one of us. Other than that, just start throwing them in the chat, and we will get going with those. But the first thing that we wanted to talk about was especially with week two, is carb questions. So there's a lot of people who kind of questioning when they should be eating carbs, whether they're working out, not working out. So Matt's going to explain that a little bit more in detail for you, so that way you kind of hear it from the source as to what you're supposed to be doing.
All right, guys. So week two, it's all low carb. So you're going to be following your low carb macros, which are different than your deplete macros and everything else. So make sure you're following your low carb macros. They're going to be different than what you did last week. The only thing similar, probably your protein intake is going to be pretty close to what you did last week. Your fat intake is going to be lower. So make sure you're using the right macros for week two. Now, carb timing. So the first thing on a workout day, the ideal time for carbohydrates are going to be after your workout. So try to get those within 60 to 90 minutes after your workout. That's the ideal time to eat carbohydrates. Now, so that's on workout days. On non-workout days, either first meal of the day, so in the morning, or have it at dinner. That makes the spacing between carbohydrates the highest, which then means insulin's going to be the lowest, and fat burning will be at peak levels, depending on having it spaced out that way. So either in the morning, if you like your carbs in the morning, eat them in the morning. If you like them in the evening, have them in the evening. Now, it's a matter of preference too. There's some clients that if they eat their carbohydrates in the morning, it causes them to crave carbohydrates the rest of the day. And part of it's, your blood sugar's low. When your blood sugar's low, you're going to want carbohydrates. So if you feel like if you eat carbs in the morning and then you crave them the rest of the day, and it's just temptation all day, it's easier to then eat your carbs at your dinner meal, which is a more natural time for you to eat that anyways, because usually you're having a decent meal at dinner. So move them to dinner. So those are your options. Now, if you read the guide, so everything you need to know of why we're doing what we're doing, what to expect, all those kinds of things are in your game plan that I send out to you. So make sure you're reading over the game plan. It explains everything. A lot of people who have a lot of questions and are confused aren't reading the game plan, where all their questions are actually answered in there. So make sure you're reading through the game plan. If for some reason your energy levels are really low for your workouts, sometimes it's better to actually move your carbohydrates before your workout, which then you'll be able to utilize the carbohydrates to power through your workout. If you're going to do that, though, you really need 60 to 90 minutes for your body to process and digest the carbohydrates to actually make them useful for your workout. So don't just eat them like 20 minutes before and then wonder why you didn't have a great workout. So if you're going to do that, then after your workout would be back to no carbs.
All right, and then kind of the other, I guess, big question typically this week is, or big concern, I should say, that we typically notice with challenges is the large discrepancy from week one to week two in weight loss. So typically week one, everybody drops a ton of weight, and then week two, they don't lose very much, and there's reasons behind it, so don't freak out. Matt's going to kind of explain those reasons to you.
All right, so I sent this out in the email today, and then in the game plan that you guys have, it also explains it as well. So it really doesn't matter how many times we tell you, what way we tell you. People still kind of freak out week two because they don't see, you go from a big massive weight loss to, 1 to 2 pounds this week is actually really, really good. So, and all has to do with water and water retention. So week one, you're not eating any carbs except for from the vegetables. So you're depleting your glycogen stores. For every gram of glycogen, you hold 3 grams of water. So as you deplete your glycogen levels, you're also depleting your water levels intracellularly. So naturally, you're going to lose weight. Now, your body, week two, it doesn't like that. So when you lose a bunch of water, your body, job is to survive. So physiologically speaking, if you lose a lot of water, it's going to, adapt to that to make you retain water or try to make it so you don't lose as much water. So week two, your body is fighting against you and is raising hormones that cause you to retain water. So even if we went a deplete week again, you would not see anywhere near the numbers that you saw week one. So, and now you're going to be eating more carbohydrates. You just came off a cheat meal, which then replenishes glycogen stores, which is intentional. So please do not weigh yourself after a cheat meal. We do not want to put you on suicide watch. So then after that, all week you're eating carbohydrates again. You're going to be holding a lot more water. So even if you maintain your weight this week, you probably lost 1 to 2 pounds of body fat, maybe even more, depending on how big of a person you are. But if you lost 1 or 2 pounds, that's exceptional for week 2. So week 2 is always the lowest weight loss for people. So please don't freak out if you didn't lose any weight this week. If you only lost 1 or 2 pounds, that is exceptional. It is a fat loss program. So look at the inches. So if you're measuring correctly, you should still be losing a few inches this week, even though your weight didn't change. And let that be a reminder about what the program is. It's fat loss. So the inches matter more than the weight. At the end of the day, people see inches. They do not see weight on the scale.
Yeah, and then, all right, guys, so what we're going to do is, those are typically the big things that happen week 2. So if you have questions, again, I know I've gotten a lot of personal messages over the last 2 days regarding questions, so feel free to ask, and then we can answer them for you live. We will stay here till 7:30. If need be, like last week, we can stay as long as it takes to answer all the questions. But the goal is, again, to make sure that you kind of have an understanding of what's going on this week. So if you have questions, please type them into the chat right now, and that's how we'll go through and answer them in order.
The other thing that I've been noticing just watching the Facebook group is people get confused on what is what and what should be considered what and all those kinds of things. There's a lot of gray area when you start going off the list. You've seen some of the veterans say, hey, just stick to the list weeks 1 and 2, or even for the first challenge, and try not to deviate from the list. That way it's very simple to know, okay, is it a protein, is it a carb, is it fat? Because it's, on our list it says these are proteins, these are carbs, these are fats. Now when you start getting away from the list, then you're going to have to start, a lot of times just counting everything. So, sometimes it's like 60% protein and 40% fat, and, the percentages change all the time, but if you're sticking to the list, it really doesn't matter. But if you're ever confused on, okay, is this a protein, a carb, or a fat, just count it all. You're not going to get as many calories in that week because you're counting everything, but that way you're staying within your macronutrient ranges and you don't have anything to worry about. And that's the beauty of it, is it's flexible. So if you eat off the list a little bit, just count it and you're still going to be successful.
All right. Now, we have a question, but before we get to that real quick, the other thing that I did notice today was I had a few people ask with their carb meal why we don't have fats with our carb meal. And I didn't know if maybe you wanted to go into that a little bit so people at least know.
Okay, so the reason why we don't mix carbs with fat, especially in our program, now if it's a little bit of fat, it's not a huge deal, but when we're starting to add a lot of direct sources of fat with carbohydrates, then that's when we start getting into the problem. Again, this is ideal scenarios. So when you eat carbohydrates, your body releases insulin. When your body releases insulin, insulin is a storage hormone. So when you just eat carbohydrates and your carbohydrate levels are depleted, and you're not capping out your glycogen stores, your body's more readily to store it as glycogen, which is how your body stores carbs. But when you have fat in the presence, so fatty acids in the blood and insulin in the blood, your body is more likely to store it as body fats, which is obviously not what we're trying to do. So when we're elevating insulin levels, we want to have fatty acids in the blood as low as possible, so we're not storing that as body fats. So that's pretty much the simplistic answer of that.
All right. First question is the idea to keep the carbs spaced apart? Some days I work out at 4:35, and then I would do my carb meal after my workout. On a day I don't work out, I would do my carbs first meal. Is that too close together? Do I need to be consistent with the timing?
No, you don't need to be consistent with the timing. If you think about it, yes, they're close together 2 days, but then it's going to take you, say the next day you do a workout, you're literally going a day and a half before you introduce carbohydrates again, which that whole time you're going to be utilizing body fat as an energy source. So although one day they're closer together, the next day inevitably they're going to be further apart, which means you have a much larger window of lower insulin, which means fat burning will be much higher.
All right. Again, guys, make sure you're typing your questions in here. I'm going to go through the Facebook groups real quick just to make sure nobody's asking in the comments. But make sure you're asking real quick in the chat, and we'll go through them. As many questions as you have, feel free. We are going to be here as long as it takes to make sure that you're all set to go week 2. A couple other things that are a really cool idea, and I know that Sandy posted one today, is if you guys come up with some really cool post-workout recipes or meals, go ahead and throw them out onto the Facebook page. Again, the community group is there so that if you're bored, if you kind of are not very creative and you want more ideas, go through there and look for some of them. So people can always go through and post whatever you're doing. And also, same thing, if you don't know for sure if it's something that's going to count or if you're doing it right or not, post what you're trying to do, and then, between all the trainers, Leanna, Ben, or Danielle, we can kind of go through and tell you kind of, hey, either you're on the right track or, don't put this in or don't put that in. Ultimately, we want to make sure that you're doing it right. So always feel free to share as much information as you can. It's only going to make your life easier.
So we have structure in place because at the end of the day, we want it to be ideal. But if you're hitting your macros and you're counting correctly, if your timing's not 100% spot on and all these other things, don't worry about it too much. At the end of the day, it needs to fit your life too, and we want you to be able to continue on after the 6 weeks is over. So the anxiety and the stress and all that kind of stuff that a lot of people put into it is far worse than if you add a little fat with your carbohydrates, or you timed your carbs wrong, or any of that kind of stuff. Don't freak out. Again, the anxiety and the stress and all that stuff you put on your body is far worse for you from a fat burning state and a health standpoint than if you do something incorrectly. At the end of the day, if you hit your macros, you're going to be successful. I haven't found anyone who does hit their macros not be successful.
Right, and again, the goal too is, we do have another question real quick. So is there a special workout every week prior to the cheat meal?
We try to schedule the challenge workouts. We will let you know by the end of the week if we're going to have one, but plan on Saturdays. Aaron runs the challenge workouts in Holland, and the schedule is completely up to him, and I schedule the ones in Grand Haven. So we'll keep you posted and let you know. We'll try to let you know by about Thursday. This weekend, I will not be in town. I'm going to Detroit for my mom's birthday, so Grand Haven won't be hosting one. But you can always jump in with the other challenge workout as well if Aaron's hosting one.
Yep. So the other thing, too, guys, is be aware too that the location may change as the weather gets nice. We tend to like to do them outside because we can fit really as many people as it takes. And it's a good change of scenery a little bit too. So, for instance, if we know Matt's gone this week, it may be we may have it outside somewhere where I can hold a bunch of people. I just have to go through Holland and find a decent park that's not going to be really mad at me. Otherwise, we may even just do it in Grand Haven if you guys want to drive down. The other cool thing too with combining them is it allows you guys to meet each other face to face too. I know a lot of people, at the after challenge parties or anything like that, it's really cool to be able to put kind of a face with a name that you see on social media every day. So we try to combine those workouts. Again, ultimately, if you don't have time or you just want to do it by yourself, that's why we have the deplete and the vacation workouts and all that stuff in place in the file section of the Facebook group for you, ready to go, is so that even if you don't make it or you would rather just not spend as much time doing it, that's fine. It's not a big deal, but we want to at least offer you guys something. So I'll work on that this weekend for you to make sure that everybody can go to the same workout.
And make sure if you're not able to make it to the workout, you're still at a minimum getting a workout in that Saturday. So if for some reason getting to the challenge workout or doing a deplete workout before your cheat meal isn't possible, make sure you're at least getting one workout in that day. If you're having a cheat meal, that you should think, I got to earn my cheat meal. So if you can make it to those, great. If you can't, make sure you're at least getting the morning workout in or doing the deplete workout from home that day, not just having your cheat meal and you haven't really done anything all day. That's not good.
All right. The next question, I'm assuming, is Brittany. What are more free veggies that we can eat or cook with? Do onions and peppers count as carbs? I know people have asked if there are many more veggies besides what's on the list.
All right, so that goes back to okay, what's ideal and all that kind of stuff. If you're only having a little bit of onions and peppers, I mean, I wouldn't go crazy. You don't necessarily have to count it, but if you're having a lot of them, it starts to add up. Now, Aaron's talked about it several times that a little of this, a little of that, a little of this, at that moment doesn't seem like a lot, but as soon as you start stacking it together every single day, 3 or 4 times, and then you do it 7 days a week, by the end of the week, and you go, oh my gosh, I lost half a pound, I lost a pound, and I followed everything to a T. You think perceptually you think you followed everything to a T, but in actuality, reality is you didn't. So with that stuff, again, it's still vegetable. So I mean, I've never met anyone who got fat off a vegetable, unless it was potatoes, maybe corn.
I
But
love Doritos.
Doritos.
If there's a vegetable, they gotta be, right?
So obviously onions and peppers give us great flavor with our food. So use it sparingly, but you can have it. Don't stress about it. Now, if for some reason you have a week where you don't lose anything and you're adding a bunch of stuff, then we might have to look at that and say, hey, let's not add that to our food.
Yeah, kind of the same thing with the lemon and all the fruit juices in our water is it's not a huge deal, right? But if you are doing it every single day and you start using more and more and more, eventually, like Matt said, you're ghosting in 1,000 calories a week, no problem doing that. And ultimately, it's all carbohydrates that you're adding in too. And we want the carbohydrates to do what they're supposed to do. We don't need them after a certain point. That's why we're trying to get your body to stay burning fat. So if all day we're feeding ourselves little bits of carbs, over the course of a day and a week, you're adding hundreds of grams, and that's where it becomes an issue. It's not necessarily that one little meal. It's when that one little meal turns into every time you do your water, now I have to put lemon or lime in it. Every time I eat my breakfast, I have to put onions and peppers in. That's where it starts to become a problem. Next question is, this is not a challenge specific, hope that's okay, no problem. How important is it to drink water before a workout? I go to 5 a.m. and have the mommy issue with my bladder. If I hydrate throughout the day, is it okay to skip the pre-workout water?
Man,
You can have that one.
hydration is actually extremely important during your workout and even from a fat burning physiologically. So I would have as much water as you can tolerate. A lot of it, though, is, especially if you're coming at 5 a.m., that means you're probably downing a bunch of water and then coming to boot camp. So if you can wake up a little bit early and get your water in and get the hydration process going and then utilize the bathroom a couple times before you get to boot camp or even when you're at boot camp, that would be a good idea. Or, have some water. You don't want to come completely dehydrated. That's when we start having some issues. So drink as much as you feel comfortable drinking.
All right. So next one, maybe we should make a list of what carb veggies are so people... it actually is on the list, Brittany. If you go to the carbohydrate list that we sent you in the food list, onions and peppers are actually on there. So it comes down to, we do try to put the higher carb vegetables on there so that way you know how much you're using. So like for onions, for instance, it's not a huge amount and it's in a cup of onions, right? Which again, if you're using a cup of onions in a meal is a large amount of onions. I don't think anybody actually eats a cup of onions in a meal. But like I said, over the course of a day and a week, that's when it adds up. So we tried to put them all in there. The main ones that are on the free list, again, like Matt said, there's a difference between okay and ideal. Ultimately, the reason that we have the list is to make it so there's no-brainer options, right? We don't want you to have to think. We want you to be like, okay, these are fine. I know I'm going to get good results if I just stick to these. Like I said, eventually, when you get comfortable and you want to start counting everything, that's fine. But ultimately, the challenge is designed to be 6 weeks of optimal fat loss, not okay fat loss. If we wanted okay fat loss, that would be our basic nutrition program. This is designed to be all-intensive, 4 to 6 weeks, all-in type of attitude, and that's the reason that we have the ideal list as opposed to anything else. Next question. I am still getting headaches that are exasperated during the workouts. Sunday's challenge workout, I thought my head may explode. I am getting the water in. Any other thoughts?
All right, so Sunday's workout. So Sunday should have been felt like the hardest, most challenging thing you've ever done. Your body by then you're literally running on nothing. Your body's still transitioning to being able to utilize fat as an energy source. So the thing is, your central nervous system, especially your brain, until it adapts, really utilizes glucose as an energy source. So typically, to really fully be able to utilize fat and ketones as an energy source, especially for your brain, can take up to 2 weeks. So the fogginess is normal, but we only want to do that once. It's not a ketogenic diet, but we need that transition to have your body transition to a fat burning state. Now, after your cheat meal, and now that you're introducing carbohydrates again, you should start feeling better, and that fogginess should start going away. Now, when I talked about when you can eat your carbohydrates, you said it makes it worse after a workout. You may do better having your carbohydrates pre-workout then. Again, try to give yourself about 60 to 90 minutes prior to. That's going to help you if you're going in with a low blood sugar, which is going to make you feel worse. If you go in with low blood sugar and then you work out, which lowers your blood sugar even further, you're going to for sure feel a lot worse. So maybe moving the carbohydrates prior to your workout may help with your brain not feeling so foggy and headaches and all that kind of stuff. The other thing is make sure that you're getting enough vegetables. The veggies are carbs. At the end of the day, they're still carbohydrates, and we have enough vegetables in there that you should be getting a decent amount of carbohydrates. If you're having 6 cups of vegetables and then you're adding on top of that, depending on your body size, 30, 40, 50 extra direct sources of carbohydrates, at the end of the day, you're probably getting over 100 grams of carbohydrates. So that should be plenty for brain functioning and starting to feel normal again.
Yeah. The other thing too is that, obviously if you're getting, especially if you're getting lightheaded or really bad, try to, listen to your body a little bit. If you need to take a 30-second breather and get under control again, that's fine. Always, always, always police your own body. So you know how hard you can go, and if you feel something isn't right, you don't have to push through it. There's no part of working out that you should ever leave feeling like garbage. You should always feel great when you leave. So if you start feeling bad or nauseous or really, really bad headache or vertigo or anything like that, take a break and take a breath. It is not a big deal. We don't want to just bury you into the ground. That's not the purpose of the workout. The purpose of the workout is to, get that fat loss going, get that metabolism going, and then, have some fun. We don't want you to feel bad by the time you leave. Any other questions? We'll do as many more as we need to. So we can stay on for another 5-6 minutes. If nobody asks any questions, we can wrap it up then. But again, up to you. We can be here as long as you all need. So just ask your questions in the chat. I'll check the Facebook post one more time real quick.
And to address that further a little bit, if this is like your first week and a day of working out in a while too, a combination of the diet and the working out, your body's still adapting. I wish, your body could adapt from not doing a whole lot, and then, we're going to say, hey, don't eat any carbohydrates, and you work out intensely, and you're just going to feel fine in a week. By the time you get to week 3, 4, and beyond, that's when you start feeling like, all right, I feel a lot better. I have more energy. All the things that they told me are happening. It just doesn't happen overnight.
All right, so we do actually have one question that someone posted in the Facebook group. Poor Renee. I swear, by the time we're done with this challenge, Renee, you are going to be a rock star of the internet. I'm going to show you just how to create everything. You are going to be awesome by the time you're done. I'll help you get on chat. Just come see me. But she asked, can you explain the importance of breathing right during our workouts?
The importance of breathing right during your workouts. Well, breathing's important because you don't want to pass out. That's kind of a joke. It's one of those things that it just makes a huge difference. If you're holding your breath all, you're just going to be making the workout way harder than it needs to be. You're putting a lot of pressure on stuff that doesn't need to happen. It goes way deeper than that, but just make sure you're breathing. you'll get a much better workout and you'll feel much better when you're done.
Yep. Um, then actually a follow-up question to that in the chat is, I've noticed my breath gets bad from all the protein and low carbs. Would you recommend no gum or mints? Is there anything we can add to help with this? But not gum.
Brush your teeth in between. Really, a lot of it's from the ketone bodies that your body's producing. It leaves a nasty film on your teeth sometimes. That's just kind of normal. I feel like the beginning of the diet it's much worse, but towards the end it gets a lot better. But honestly, like if it really, really bugs you, just bring a toothbrush to work for lunch and just brush your teeth. You'll feel much better. I notice it as well when I go low carb, and it's got nothing to do with the protein. It has more to do with that your body's utilizing fat as an energy source. It's producing ketones, and a lot of the ketones are released. Some of the ketones are released through your breath and then through your urine. So it's kind of a sign that your body's burning fat. So you can kind of think of it as a good way if you like, but I would just bring a toothbrush because there's the mints and the gum really, really start to add up. For every stick of gum, even if it says no sugar, it's going to have 2 grams of sugar alcohol, which, it says it's no carbs, but it's still carbs. So try to minimize that as much as humanly possible.
The other thing you can do too is just get really upset at whoever asked you and explain to them that you're burning fat and to leave you alone. That's also an option if you have nothing else to do. Burning fat, you leave my breath out of this.
Bring it in their face and say that's the smell of fat.
That's right. That's fat burning. Any other questions? I know it takes a second for the chat to catch up, so that's okay. We got about 2 more minutes. If we don't get any more questions, we'll wrap it up. Yeah, go ahead and I'll check again through the groups one more time. Doesn't look like we have any more in the chat.
Final countdown.
That's right. If Matt's going to start singing, you can all feel free to leave.
And the numbers decrease by half.
I completely understand. Yeah, there's no more questions in the Facebook group. Oh, a notification. Oh, there we go. Let's see. What I meant by that question is we exhale on the hardest part of the exercise and inhale on easy part, like push-ups, exhale up, inhale down.
All right, you're gonna on the eccentric part, so usually the lowering part. So if you were thinking bicep curl and you're lowering the weight, you would hold your breath, and then when you're the concentric part, you would breathe out. So when you're curling it up, that's when you breathe out. So if you're doing a push-up, when you're lowering, you'd be holding your breath. When you push back up, you would exhale out during the concentric phase of the action. That would be how you should be breathing. Make sense?
Makes sense. Let me update it one more time. All right, I think that's it. So again, next week, what we're planning on doing is we'll come up with some common kind of concerns and everything going forward into week 3. We'll try to start, when we do this, we'll try to open up with those. So again, I'll try to get this uploaded to Facebook tonight, so that way if anybody missed it, they can go through and watch it. But ultimately, make sure you're bringing any concerns and anything else. And it doesn't necessarily have to be challenge related too. Like the drinking water before a workout question. That's an awesome question. That's probably wondered by a lot of people. So feel free to bring those kind of questions. We don't mind what it is that you ask. The goal of this whole thing is to be available to you guys to answer them on the spot. And to kind of help you understand things a little bit better. So sometimes it's easier, instead of reading an article, to just hear it auditorily instead of having to read it. So that's kind of the point.
My emails get long, and I know they're not fun to read always, but there's usually good information in there. So make sure you're reading through the emails as well. Again, week 2, lowest weight loss, lowest weight loss. So don't get frustrated this week. And the other thing is, it's the shortest week of the entire challenge from a progress standpoint. So you guys had your cheat on Sunday, and then you have 5 days, and then you have to turn in your 4 days really of progress, and then you have to turn in your progress report. So really keep that in mind. Week 3, the results will pick up again. So please do not get discouraged. Really look at the inches lost. And then halfway through, we're going to really encourage you to take progress pictures so that you can see the true progress of what you're making. Because when you see yourself every single day, it's virtually impossible to see all the small changes that you're making every day. But those small changes really add up. So, just kick butt, stick to the plan, don't get discouraged. It's a 6-week process. And if you stick to the plan, you're going to get results. It happens every time.
Also, guys, if you need any help with how to take a proper selfie, myself or Ben Pierce are pros at said information, and we will be more than happy to help you figure out how to take proper selfies. So feel free to utilize us for that as well. But if there's nothing else, guys, we're going to wrap it up tonight. I'm going to finish my salad and get in the shower. So is there anything else, Matt, that you want to cover?
Nope. Have a great week.
All right. See you.